I'm Ross Farlow. I'm a full-time cane farmer and chairman of the Clarence Cane Growers Association and also the chairman of the New South Wales Cane Growers Council. Well, I grew up in the early 60s on the family farm, and back in those days it was a lot of manual labour, and learnt to work with my grandfathers and my father and uncles. Left school when I was 15 and got a job as a mechanic, apprentice mechanic. I then had my own business for a few years at the end of that, and in the early 1980s I went onto the harvesting gangs, working over on the Warrego Islands and Ashby Islands, another couple of seasons down on Palmer's Island and Palmer's Channel, and then in 1989 I went got a job here at the Harwood Mill on the Harwood Mill cane farm, the experimental farm, working under Don Parsons, who was the agronomist at the time, and we ran the experimental farm and provided a service to the growers. And then in 1999 I went into the refinery on the packing floor and then learnt some of the processes, worked on the clarification floor and over in the raw shed and other jobs around so I did about 22 and a half years here on site, and in 2012 or so I left and became a full-time farmer. While I was working here on the experimental farm and running that, I was going home and working of a night time on my own little farm that we had bought next door to Dad's, and then I'd be working, whenever I wasn't working here, I was working at home on the farms. And then when I went on to shift work, 2 days, 2 nights, 12-hour shifts, that would give me 3.5 days off, so I'd be able to work on the farm on those days off. So pretty much 7 days a week and 6 nights you'd be working, yeah. I think just watching your crops grow, working the soil and getting the soil in the right texture and the right form to produce a good seed bed, and then watching that cane germinate, and then following it right through. And then at the moment I've got burnt cane at home and they're harvesting it, and it's pretty fulfilling to have that, watch that crop grow and then harvest it. I suppose there's a cliche that it's a good lifestyle. It's the lifestyle of what you make it. You can make it as hard as you like. When I was a young man I used to worry a lot about the weather, things I couldn't control. Now I think I've accepted it, that the things you can't control, like floods, wet weather and dry spells, and you just work with it and do the best you can. I think it's extraordinary that it's an agricultural business has lasted as long as it has. I can see it going for many, many more years as well. It's so strong. The word resilient is used all the time, but it is true. There's a lot of threats and challenges for agriculture and business through downturns in market and labour shortages, all those sorts of things. But if it's a good industry and well managed, it always survives, and this one has. There's a lot of passion involved in it as well, from the farming sector, the generations of men and women that have worked here. There's an enormous amount of houses have been paid for in Maclean and Yamba and the Lower Clarence from this place. There's an enormous amount of kids being educated and put through university out of this place. I don't think that should be lost on anybody, that how valuable the economy and the base that the Harwood Sugar Mill has put into our local economy over the years. Well, certainly when the refinery was added to the mill, it gave security to the site and security to the cane farming business, the whole of the sugar industry in New South Wales. When the refinery was put there to value add to our crop and gave us independence, it allowed us to take control of our commodity, which was the raw sugar, value add it, and sell it locally into the domestic market. And I think that gave us a a right to survive well and truly into the long-term future, where we were exposed to other outside influences while ever we were in that solely the raw sugar market. So I think the addition to the refinery we can't undersell that. That was the principle of the sugar mill is still the same. You crush it, you crush the cane, you boil the sugar, boil the juice, and you turn it into sugar. That principle's still the same, but I think adding the refinery to the mix has shored it up to be a very, very strong business. And, it'll see us well and truly into the future. On the cane growing side, when I started, it was a lot of manual work, a lot of cutting cane by hand. I wasn't old enough to see horses in action, but my dad speaks about it. But they were very, very small tractors. A cab tractor was a very rare thing. I didn't see that until probably the early 80s. Most of them weren't even air conditioned in those days, though. They were just a cab that, stopped the wind, but they didn't keep you warm or cool. The mechanisation, certainly 1974 and 75, when mechanical harvesting came into play, you just changed the way that the farms operated and the way the business ran. And then I guess the next big change has been tractors with GPS on them, satellite navigation, and the technology that has come along with farming as well. So, and the advances in that crop management, crop monitoring. So, yeah, it's been a lot of changes, incremental, but I think mechanical harvesting, it just changed the way farms worked, and farms could then be one person or one family could farm a lot more because they weren't tied up in the removal of the crop. That was done for them then, and they could continue then to grow and work the next crop. So farm sizes increased around the same time. I think just the camaraderie and the mateship. I don't know that I have any one specific memory. They're all just blended into a lifetime of good friends. There was a common goal, was to just get the job done and do it safely, look after your mates, and they'd look after you. And right from when I was in the harvesting sector through to working here in the mills, I've got great memories of the meal rooms and sitting out in the paddocks and having our lunches. It's been a great ride, good time. And even now we get together in different fellas' sheds that I've worked with over the years, so that make sure that we don't lose touch, that we have once a month or once every 6 weeks we get together and have a few beers and catch up. It's a good thing to do. Well, I've thought about this a little bit, and a lot of people say I'd like to look into the future and see where I'd end up. Well, I'd like to go back the other way. I'd like to go back maybe 100 years and see what it was like then. The simplicity of life that people talk about and my father talks about, and how his father would have, and family and his mother would have functioned, and what chores they had to do, but what their life would have been like and what the landscape would have looked like, without the Harwood bridges and, without the highways, and what would the place have looked like, and how would it have functioned 100 years ago? I think that'd be great to go back and have a look at that. Yep, the simplicity of life, but not understated. It was hard work, and but there wasn't a lot of other things that made life complicated, like mobile phones and technology and rules and regulations. I think that's the simplicity that I'm trying to talk about. Yeah, I'd like to go back and have a look. Well, I feel honoured that I've been asked to do a little video as part of the 150-year celebrations. The sugar industry's been part of my family's life. As I say, we've been here 150 years, coincidentally the same amount of time as the mill. It's been a great industry to the lower Clarence and the wider economic, I suppose, benefit to the state. So no, I'm just pleased to be a part of it and still a part of it. And I just wish everyone involved with it great success and well done for their efforts.